ideally, well, with this size group, this could have been a train wreck, and it wasn't. You guys, you were really able to teach pretty powerfully in 5 to 7 minutes. You know, I'd seen you, not everyone in front of the room and not everyone teaching, but it was great to see you working. It was great to see how you organized your lesson and what you were going to do with those 5 minutes. I spoke with most of you. If you can stay for a couple minutes, I'll try to speak with the people I didn't speak with, otherwise I'll email you feedback. But it's great to have observed you teaching. And then the other thing I want to say to make sure that it doesn't get lost is, it's been amazing working with you this semester. And I always feel the need to say this when I praise people, which is, if I didn't mean it, I wouldn't say it. I wouldn't say you sucked, right? But I just wouldn't say it. I remember vividly the first night you came in, it was the first day you taught. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And I remember many of you crying at different points during the semester, which I believe had nothing to do with me, fortunately. And then I watched, you know, I remember you were talking, you did was it noise? Right? The noise thing, which got Anna in trouble. And, right, corporal punishment. And, you know, I'm a little bit concerned that Bao was so shy and doesn't have the kind of self-esteem that he should have, but I think he's working on that, and that's so what I want to say about that is, I hope that this course has been valuable to you, particularly in parallel with your first semester of teaching, and as long as it works for you, I am totally happy to be in communication with you and have you be in communication with me. So if you want to run stuff by me, if you want to stop in and talk, if you want me to come and visit, you know, I'd be happy to try to accommodate all that. You're free to never be in touch, but periodically you'll probably get an email from me saying, hey, how's it going? And just like this semester, you're free to ignore those, as some of you do, pretty regularly. Right, so that's I know, really, right? And then the last housekeeping thing is, midnight tonight is it. Anything that's turned in gets graded with something above a 0. Everything turned in after tonight gets graded at a 0. Everybody's clear about that, right? Okay, and no one's in trouble, right? I didn't check live text today. You were all good?
Yep.
Okay, I'm not completely overwhelmed, but there you go. All right, so I was thinking over the week about what we've been dealing with, and I think if there were 1 or 2 things I wanted to say to kind of tie things together, it would look like this. So all semester, what I've asked you to do is to visualize yourself and your teaching as a system. So we talked about adding value, depth, and what was the third? Structure, right? So I asked you to consider yourself as a system, and I had you develop some practices. One of the blog assignments was, what practices could you take on to improve your system as a teacher? I asked you to see your classroom as a system, and I asked you where in your teaching, where in your practice, could you add value, depth, and structure? And you guys did, of all the blog assignments, that was the conversation that went on the longest, that was the most rich, and I hope that you found it as valuable as you apparently did. And now I'd like to add that you view teaching as a system. So we dealt with you, we dealt with the classroom, but if this course has done one of the things it's supposed to do, you should be able to kind of now start to visualize your teaching as a system. And just like any system, stuff comes in and stuff goes out. Alicia, were you the one talking about inputs and outputs in your thing? Right. So just like any system, but the questions that I'm going to ask you to kind of keep in front of you are the same questions that I've asked all semester, which is, how can I make my system bigger how can I make my system more robust? And how can I make my system more connected to other systems? Do those questions make sense? Great. So I'm going to ask you to start to visualize yourself as a network. You are a network. So you have relationship within this class. Some of you are more connected to some than others. And some of those connections are really valuable to you from what I can observe. And some of them just are of no value. Those people shall be nameless. But I wasn't talking about you every time. I'm supposed to make eye contact. I read that in the teacher's book. Okay, so you're a network. Your classroom is a network. And I want you to also start to think about your students as networks. Your students as systems, and asking the same question about them. How can I make the network that they have bigger? How can I make it more robust? And how can I make it more connected to other people? My overall goal of all these questions is the following thing. I believe strongly, and this should not be a huge thing to buy, that if I can make this bigger, if I can make the container bigger, I can fit more stuff in that container. I don't mean more content. I mean more learning and more deep understanding. Does that make sense? So, you have another 6 months of being a first-year teacher. And your only job in being a first-year teacher is surviving till June. That's your only job. You need to survive to June because you don't know yet whether you can succeed at this job. And you won't know until the whole year is done. And nobody died, and you didn't die, and you were able to say some stuff that mattered. But you get what I'm saying? So your job, this is my last kind of farewell, your job is to make it through June. And then you're going to use after the summer to kind of reflect on, where did I do those things? Where can I improve those things? Right? So remember I started the class saying we're going to deal with 2 time frames, now and later. Remember this? So initially, you may not remember this, but I remember vividly. Those first 2 or 3 classes, there was only now. Like later was maybe 8:30 when some of you had to catch the Staten Island ferry, but that was it. And now you're later, you're kind of now maybe 4 weeks later. Like you're thinking about what you're going to do in January. Well, you're thinking now about what you're going to do after school ends and you're on break. But what I mean is, it's no longer the case that you're right here. You're a little bit at least in the next unit or the next set of lessons, right? Okay. Before the year ends, you're going to have, and when the year ends, you're going to have a sense of the whole year at once. And you're finally going to understand how all the pieces of the stuff that you've been working on all year fit together. Now you're just guessing, and that's totally fine. And most of your guesses are totally wrong, and that's also totally fine. Right? Because if I know blah 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 is coming up, and I understand, so I know, I can't think of an example right at this moment, but I know this is coming up, and I know that this thing is a lot like this thing, which now we're just kind of bumping into. Oh, that's right. Those things are kind of related. But if I know next year that those 2 things are related, there's things I could do here that will pay off there. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay. Does all that seem useful at some level? Yes, because otherwise we have to talk about it in the last one. I hope that this course has been great for you. It's been a blast working with you. Oh, thank you. That's definitely looking for an applause, but thank you. I'll be around for a little while if you want to talk, and otherwise,
we just want to say thank you.
Yes.
I love you.
That is true.
Yes. Okay, just check. All right, so I'm going to be here for a little while. Stay if you want to, but otherwise, take those of you who distributed materials, make sure the room doesn't have any materials left. Have a great holiday. Stay in touch when you want to.
I'll miss you.